Hi guys, welcome to Batman Arkham Asylum. This is very much an impromptu video because I bought these games, like all the Arkham games that are out. Asylum, City, and Night. I bought them, I forget when, but I think fairly recently on a sale. Because, well, I played and finished Mad Max not too long ago, like in the summer, I think. And I really liked it, even though I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. And then I found out that the Arkham games are kind of or at least Arkham Asylum was pretty much the first game like that, and Mad Max is very much like Arkham Asylum, or like the Arkham games in terms of gameplay. Obviously Mad Max is open world, and the Arkham games, or at least Asylum, is pretty linear. But I thought I should try them, and I just finished Asylum today, actually. Or rather, I finished the story yesterday, I think. And I just took a few hours today to complete all the Riddler stuff. In terms of overall completion, I'm at 84%, so there's still quite a bit left to do, but it's really not stuff that interests me, like challenge things. But what I'm here for, and I apologize for the somewhat long-winded intro, but which I didn't know is that there are character bios you can find, mostly by doing all the Riddler trophy challenges. And I've been looking for more reading videos, and I thought this might be kind of a fun one, because it's I really don't know much about the DC universe. Of course, I know the most famous ones, like Joker and Bane, and I had heard of Killer Croc, Catwoman, all the usual suspects. But most of them I've never even heard of, or I've heard of, but I didn't know they were part of the DC universe. So today we are going to read through all the character bios. Without further ado, this is the first entry, and it's, of course, the man himself, Batman. When his parents were gunned down in front of him, young Bruce Wayne resolved to rid Gotham City of the criminal... It's been a while since I did a reading video, and I can't read anymore. When his parents were gunned down in front of him, young Bruce Wayne resolved to rid Gotham City of the criminal element that took their lives. He trained extensively to achieve mental and physical perfection, in addition to mastering martial arts, detective techniques, and criminal psychology. Dressing as a bat to prey on criminals' fears, Batman fights crime with the aid of specialized gadgets and vehicles, operating out of his secret Batcave below Wayne Manor. Yeah, the facts and attributes are not really that important. "6'2". Computer expert. Anyway, next is the other main man, the Joker. An insanely homicidal supervillain, the Joker's white skin, green hair, and blood-red lips belie the chaotic nature underlying his cartoonish appearance. The self-styled clown prince of crime has no superpowers beyond a capacity for incredible violence and a skill at creating deadly mayhem. He frequently concocts elaborate schemes to entrap his arch nemesis, Batman. First appearance, Batman #1, spring 1940. Was there a Batman movie in the 40s, or am I not understanding it correctly? Next is Warden Sharp. Quincy Sharp has been running Arkham Asylum for the past 3 years and has dedicated his life to restoring to sanity the so-called supervillains that plague Gotham City. He is currently campaigning to become the next mayor of Gotham. To facilitate this campaign, he has instigated stringent new security and experimental research policies at Arkham. Next is Frank Boles. Frank has been working at Arkham for 8 years. He has twice been suspended for drinking on the job and regularly holds poker evenings in the guard rooms. Frank is desperate to be top dog at Arkham. He fails to recognize that he is considered untrustworthy and generally disliked. Next is Killer Croc. Born with a rare mutation that made his skin green and scaly and grew his body to grotesque proportions, Waylon Jones was raised by an alcoholic aunt and bullied relentlessly for his appearance. He briefly worked as a carnival freak under the name Killer Croc, but his misanthropy grew, as did his bestial nature, pushing him to a life of crime. As his physical condition and mental state deteriorate, Killer Croc becomes a more bestial foe, increasingly detached from humanity. "11 feet. Occupation, alligator wrestler, gangster, murderer. Okay. Next is Harley Quinn. An Arkham Asylum psychiatrist assigned to treat the Joker, Dr. Harleen Quinzel instead became obsessively fixated on her patient, believing herself to be in love with him. She helped him escape confinement and took on her own criminal identity as Harley Quinn. Quinn is a violent and unpredictable felon whose only motivation, beyond general mayhem, is achieving the Joker's approval. Because of his cruel and mercurial nature, this in some ways makes her just another of his victims, albeit a very dangerous one. Next is the Penguin. The Penguin, one of Batman's oldest foes, is an eccentric criminal mastermind, known as much for his love of ornithology and trick umbrellas as for his shady business dealings. Gotham's popular Iceberg Lounge serves as Cobblepot's front for a number of illegal financial activities that fund much of the city's underworld. Despite his short stature, the Penguin is a wily foe whose umbrellas conceal a variety of deadly weapons and gadgets. He did not know his real name. Oswald Chesterfield Cobblepot. Next is Two-Face. District Attorney Harvey Dent was one of Batman's strongest allies in Gotham City, until a criminal threw acid in Dent's face, hideously scarring him. The wounds fractured his psyche, and he was reborn as a schizoid criminal mastermind obsessed with duality. His former good luck charm, a two-headed trick silver dollar, was damaged on one side in the attack, and Dent has seized on it as a reflection of his half-scarred visage. He flips it to decide the fates of his victims. Despite Batman's efforts to reform his former ally, Dent is consumed by his fixation on chance, and his crimes are designed to prove out his diametric philosophy. Next is Prometheus. A dark reflection of Batman, Prometheus was raised by criminals who were gunned down by policemen right in front of him. Dedicating his life to destroying the law, Prometheus traveled the world and trained in the ways of murder. Clad in an armored suit that maximizes his natural skills, he is a master assassin whose physical and mental abilities rival Batman's own. Next is the Great White Shark. A crooked financier who stole millions of dollars, Warren White thought he'd scored a legal victory when his insanity plea went through. But when he got to Arkham Asylum, he realized his mistake. Driven insane by the other inmates, he was also disfigured by an encounter with Mr. Freeze that left him without hair, a nose, ears, or lips. Calling himself the Great White Shark, he filed his teeth into fangs to more perfectly resemble his new namesake. Putting his financial skills to use, he has become a major player in Gotham's underground crime scene, running a number of rackets from his cell in Arkham. Next is the Ventriloquist. Arnold Wesker was a timid orphan whose deep repression erupted in a barroom brawl, resulting in him being sent to Blackgate Prison. There he encountered the puppet Scarface and promptly murdered the man who'd carved the puppet. The two are now inseparable, with Scarface directing a series of criminal activities. While most believe that Wesker is simply acting out a second personality through the puppet, Wesker sees himself as a reluctant lackey who merely does his puppet's bidding. Next is Professor Hugo Strange. First gaining fame as a psychiatrist who declared that he'd fully analyzed the Dark Knight from afar, Professor Hugo Strange lent credence to his own claims by deducing Batman's true identity as Bruce Wayne. However, his interest in the Batman turned into a deranged obsession, and he's used his medical expertise to hatch a series of bizarre plots based around genetics and mind control in order to defeat the Batman and possibly take his place. Strange's fragile mental state has left him with intermittent knowledge of Batman's true identity, a fact that hangs over Bruce Wayne's head. For if Strange ever snaps completely, Batman's greatest secret might be revealed. I'm assuming the appearances that date back to 1940 are from comics, not movies, as indicated by the fact that it says comics. Okay, next is Black Mask. Following the suspicious death of his multimillionaire parents in a fire, Roman Sionis inherited their fortune and then went on to bankrupt their company. Saved by a buyout by Bruce Wayne, Sionis, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Sionis, came to resent and hate Wayne. Fixated on the concept of masks, Sionis carved one from his father's black coffin and sought revenge. His ensuing battle with the Dark Knight caused his mask to be burnt into his skin, remaking him as the Black Mask. Sionis is now a feared gang leader and one of the most powerful mob bosses in Gotham, with a burning hatred of the Batman. Next is Calendar Man. Fixated on the calendar, Julian Day became Calendar Man, a villain who timed and tied his crimes thematically to certain holidays throughout the year, often leaving clues by which he could be caught. Gotham City's hopes for a day off are often clouded by the knowledge that any holiday of note is likely to be shadowed by Calendar Man's presence. Next is Bruce Wayne. Born into the wealthy Wayne family, Bruce Wayne had an idyllic childhood, although he was given a strong sense of justice by his moralistic and philanthropic parents, Thomas and Martha. After their violent murder at the hands of a mugger, Bruce dedicated his life to battling the criminal element that took their lives. He left Gotham for many years to train his mental and physical abilities across the globe, finally returning to take up the mantle of the Dark Knight. Next are Thomas and Martha Wayne. Thomas Wayne was a gifted surgeon and heir to the Wayne fortune, dedicated to philanthropy as much as medicine. He and his wife Martha were well known and respected in Gotham. Martha Wayne shared her husband Thomas's charitable nature and was dedicated to her son Bruce's upbringing. She was well regarded in Gotham City's social circles and helped host lavish charity balls at Wayne Manor. Their tragic murder at the hands of a desperate burglar, Joe Chill, in Gotham's crime alley shook the city to its core and led to years of urban blight. It also inspired their son Bruce to eventually become the Batman. Next is Oracle. The daughter of Gotham City's police commissioner James W. Gordon, Barbara Gordon was forbidden by her overprotective father from joining the GCPD. Instead, she took on the identity of Batgirl and was a crime-fighting partner of Batman for years. But that all ended when the Joker shot her through the spine. Paralyzed from the waist down and confined to a wheelchair, Barbara adopted the new identity of Oracle, and now aids the Dark Knight with her computer expertise, providing Batman with a constant stream of information in the field to aid his battle against crime. Next is Alfred Pennyworth. Alfred Pennyworth, after a varied career, was employed as the Wayne family's butler when Bruce Wayne's parents were killed. Alfred raised the young orphan and reluctantly aided him in his quest to become the Batman. His many skills, ranging from cooking to medicine, make him Batman's staunchest ally, along with a formal demeanor that grounds the Dark Knight and deflects those who might otherwise suspect Bruce Wayne's true identity. Unflappable manner. Next is Commissioner Gordon. Police Commissioner James W. Gordon dedicated his career to cleaning up the corruption in the Gotham City Police Department. A goal he has come a long way towards accomplishing. He has been equally tough on crime, and in the pursuit of making Gotham City safe for all its citizens, Gordon has forged an uneasy alliance with Gotham's other top crime fighter, the mysterious vigilante known as Batman. Next is Aaron Cash. One of the most senior and respected guards at Arkham, Cash is only afraid of one inmate, Killer Croc, who severely wounded Cash once during a riot at the asylum. Cash remains determined, however, to keep the asylum's inmates under control and to conquer his fears of Croc. Next is Dr. Penelope Young. Penny Young was always a brilliant student who was prepared to do anything to advance professionally. She has built up a reputation for being a cold, calculating woman, focused only on the project at hand. She was hired at Arkham Asylum by Warden Sharp to head up the asylum's research department and to finally restore to sanity the more deranged of Gotham City's supervillains. Next is Mr. Zsasz. A true sociopath, Zsasz grew up in a life of ease, but nonetheless became a serial killer. Indiscriminate in his prey, body count is the only thing that matters to Zsasz. He takes pleasure in arranging the corpses of his victims in lifelike poses before carving a mark for each of his victims into his own body. He is saving a special spot for the Batman. Next is the Riddler. With an obsessive-compulsive need for attention, Edward Nygma is determined to be the most outlandish of Gotham City's criminals, concocting elaborate series of clues and riddles around his crimes. Batman has proven a worthy opponent, capable of deducing the Riddler's plans, but Nygma is dedicated to creating a mystery the Dark Knight will not be able to solve in time. Next is Poison Ivy. Botanist Pamela Isley was transformed by a science experiment gone wrong into a plant-human hybrid. With chlorophyll flowing through her veins instead of blood, she developed a toxic touch and a pheromone-fueled talent for seduction. Her crimes have become more ecologically focused as she has increasingly abandoned her human side, identifying more with the natural world. Her unique brand of eco-terrorism often puts her into conflict with the Batman, whose iron will usually protects him from her seductive powers. Next is Catwoman. An orphan who learned to survive on Gotham City's streets, Selina Kyle took to thievery to survive. But determined to do it in style, she learned martial arts and trained extensively to perfect her skills at cat burglary. Her criminal activities are often tempered by reluctant altruism, making her an inconstant villain and occasional hero. She regularly eludes capture by the Dark Knight and maintains a complicated adversarial relationship with Batman that frequently turns flirtatious and occasionally it's a lot of tricky words. She regularly eludes capture by the Dark Knight and maintains a complicated adversarial relationship with Batman that frequently turns flirtatious and occasionally legitimately romantic. Next is Mr. Freeze. Victor Freeze was a brilliant cryogenicist whose beloved wife Nora was stricken with a fatal degenerative disease. He placed her in suspended animation while obsessively searching for a way to cure her, but the corporation that funded his research and Nora's life pulled the plug, triggering an accident that transformed Freeze's body into a cold-blooded form that must always be kept below zero. At normal room temperature, he will die. Wielding a number of freezing weapons, he wears protective armor in his quest to somehow bring back his lovely wife and avenge her fate, which he partially holds the Batman responsible for. Next is Bane. Imprisoned from birth to serve his dead father's sentence, Bane was raised inside the horrific environs of a Santa Prisca prison. His only friend in the hellhole was a teddy bear he named Osito. Finding solace in smuggled books and meditation, he developed incredible powers of concentration. When he was subjected to military experiments using a steroid codenamed Venom, his iron-forged will helped him survive when other test subjects had died, and he managed to escape. Determined to prove his worth, he sought out Batman and broke the Dark Knight's spine. But Batman recovered and managed to best Bane, cutting off the precious venom supply that transforms Bane into a superhuman. Next is the Scarecrow. Potentially my favorite villain. Taunted and bullied as a youth, Jonathan Crane vowed to overcome his fears through the study of psychology and biochemistry. Kicked out of this university for experimenting on human subjects, Crane then adopted the identity of the Scarecrow and armed himself with a specialized fear-inducing gas that makes a person's deepest phobias become frighteningly real. His ongoing criminal reign of terror makes him one of Batman's most psychologically dangerous foes. And for the most part, I really enjoyed the Scarecrow bits of this game, because they were kind of more 2D platformer, which was pretty surprising. Okay, next is Jack Ryder. Jack Ryder is an investigative reporter turned controversial talk show host, well known for his aggressive manner and his determination to get to the truth. What his viewers don't realize is that he is also the Creeper, a garishly colored vigilante who Ryder can, with effort, turn into at will, although at that point the Creeper's manic personality takes over. The Creeper is usually on the side of good and just barely on the side of sanity. Next is Scarface. Gotham's Blackgate Penitentiary once had a gallows tree from which 313 criminals with death sentences were hanged. The wood from that tree was whittled by an inmate into the puppet Scarface, and that inmate was murdered by Arnold Wesker, a man who soon fell under Scarface's influence. While most believe that Scarface is simply a tool through which Wesker, as the criminal mastermind, the Ventriloquist, acts out a dark side to his personality, Wesker himself believes that Scarface is possessed by the souls who died beneath the gallows tree, and the puppet actually motivates him to commit the duo's many crimes. It's a very cool backstory. Next is Maxie Zeus. A deranged gang leader, Maxie Zeus came to believe himself an avatar of the Olympian god Zeus. Creating a cult of gang members to do his bidding, Zeus became a power player in the Gotham City underworld. His criminal activities are perpetrated by his army of followers, and, he believes, overseen by the Greek gods themselves. Next is Hush. Tommy Elliot and Bruce Wayne were childhood friends, and unknown to Bruce, dark reflections of each other. A childhood sociopath, Elliot tried to kill his parents so he could inherit their fortune. When his plan failed partly due to the surgical skills of Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father, Elliot blamed Bruce. An incredibly skilled surgeon as an adult, Elliot planned an elaborate revenge scheme on the Batman. He disguised himself as the villain Hush, his face covered in bandages, but he was in the end defeated and unmasked by the Dark Knight. Hush still plots revenge against Batman, generating complicated schemes with surgical precision. Next is Ra's al Ghul. Little is known of the early years of the nearly immortal Ra's al Ghul, whose name means the demon's head. But it is known that he has lived for many centuries due to Lazarus Pit's mystical and alchemical brews that restore his youth. A brilliant master of strategy and organization, Ra's al Ghul's goal is to save the Earth from ecological devastation by destroying most of its population. He recognizes Batman as both a worthy foe and a possible ally, except that Batman cannot accept his dystopic worldview. Batman also shares a love-hate relationship with Ra's daughter, the beautiful Talia. Next is Mad Hatter. Obsessed from a young age with Lewis Carroll's book Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Jervis Tetch, an expert hypnotist, embraced the delusion that he was the incarnation of a character in the story, the Mad Hatter. Using his skills for mesmerism, the Mad Hatter has committed many crimes, often themed around the book that inspired him and his love of hats and headgear, going so far as to implant his hats with mind control chips to amplify his hypnosis skills. Above all other headwear, however, he covets Batman's distinctive cowl and will stop at nothing to acquire it. Next is Killer Moth. Drury Walker was a minor criminal who adopted the identity of Cameron Van Cleer, a master criminal who in turn masqueraded as the costumed supervillain Killer Moth. He is a hired gun for Gotham's gangsters, but his ingenious weaponry, including his cocoon gun, does not protect him from regular defeat at the hands of the Batman. What did it say? Amoral and motivated by feelings of insecurity and inadequacy into criminal activities in an attempt at notoriety. Okay. Next is Clayface. Initially an actor in horror films, Carlo went mad when he learned a classic film of his was to be remade with a different actor in the lead role. He took on the mask of the film's villain, Clayface, and killed several of the remake's cast and crew before being stopped by Batman and Robin. Later, Carlo joined the Mud Pack, an alliance of shape-changing, mutated villains who had subsequently used the name Clayface. While that group was defeated, Carlo tricked his allies and injected himself with the essences of several of them, becoming a superhuman imbued with the abilities to change shape, melt others into protoplasm with a touch, and mimic the powers of heroes or villains he copies. Next is the Ratcatcher. Once employed as an actual Ratcatcher in Gotham, Otis Flanagan soon started using his natural gift, an affinity with and ability to control rats, to stage a variety of crimes. Eventually his control over the vermin grew until he threatened Gotham City with a veritable army of rodents, incarcerated many times at Blackgate. He's able to do as much damage within prison as without. Strange use of without. I assume they mean outside of prison. Using his loyal pets to relay messages and transport materials inside the maze of ventilation ducts that wind throughout the giant prison. Overvalues rodent life, especially in comparison to human life. Next is Humpty Dumpty. An obese, bald man nicknamed Humpty Dumpty for his egg-like form, Humphrey Dumpler is obsessed with taking things apart and putting them back together. His crimes at first were minor break-ins, leading to small mechanical items no longer functioning due to Dumpler's inability to adequately reassemble them after taking them apart. But soon his obsession grew to the point that major disasters occurred in Gotham, and Dumpler's crimes also extended to a gruesome attempt to fix, quote-unquote, his abusive grandmother by dismembering her and then attempting a Frankenstein-like reassembly. At Arkham, he is a model inmate, his quiet nature and imposing physique inuring him to the madness surrounding him. It's kind of sad. Ritualized childhood abuse has led to a severe case of arrested development and an inability to assimilate into modern society. Okay, just a few more. Next is Firefly. A pyromaniac, Garfield Linz began as a petty criminal, but soon graduated to major crimes centering around arson, torching huge parts of Gotham in the process. But his fires soon raged out of his control, leaving him horribly scarred by one of his own blazes. His body is almost fully covered with burns, and he now wears a full-body flame-retardant suit when he's out pursuing his criminal interests between bouts of incarceration in Blackgate. Next are Tweedledum and Tweedledee. Cousins with an uncanny resemblance to each other, Deaver and Dumfrie Tweed both shared criminal leanings and a fixation on Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. Teaming up, they've modeled themselves after Tweedledum and Tweedledee from that book, planning often outrageous, absurdist schemes to trap the Batman. And okay, this is the last actual character entry. Amadeus Arkham. Amadeus Arkham founded the Elizabeth Arkham Asylum for the criminally insane, naming it after his mother, whom he euthanized as treatment for her dementia. Building it on the old grounds of his family's historic mansion on the outskirts of Gotham, Amadeus personally treated its first patients, Martin Mad Dog Hawkins, who had killed Amadeus's wife and daughter. After administering fatal electroshock treatments to Hawkins, Amadeus lost all grip on his sanity and was admitted to his own institution. Okay, and the last entry, which isn't really a character, but it's the Spirit of Arkham. The writings have revealed a story that cannot possibly belong to just Amadeus Arkham. The story has weaved through time and ended on an individual who must still be alive and working here on Arkham Island. I need to figure out who it is and confront them before they can do any more harm. Okay. That was it for the reading stuff. Terrible sentence. But that was it for this video and this game, I suppose. I was briefly considering doing like a quick gameplay video, or maybe two, while I was collecting the last Riddler trophies, but I don't know, I think it would have been a bit too frustrating at times because some of them were very hard to find and I would have to pause the game to look it up and stuff. So, yeah, maybe a good thing that I didn't actually do that. I do intend to play Arkham City and Arkham Knight very soon. I don't know if there are similar entries and, in-game texts to read. But if there are, and if you like these kind of videos, then I will happily make a few videos of them. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, thank you very much for watching and for listening. And I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.